What is the biggest challenge that you find that educators have today with this? And one other question within the same question,
Mhm.
I think I was listening to one of your talks on this topic where you said that I think 94% of educators are Caucasian women
Mhm.
and the challenges that come along with that.
Right.
So if you can speak to that as well, that would be
Yes.
great. Yeah.
So depending on what state you're in, it could be 80, 90% more, but nationally it's over 85% nationwide. Teachers that are in our classrooms today are white females. And so when we think about that statistic, while we have that statistic in the teaching population, that statistic does not reflect the student population. The overwhelming majority of our students are increasingly becoming more and more diverse, more
Mhm.
and more diverse. And so when we think about the different cultural realms that we're coming from, if the teacher is not familiar with the cultural background of the student, that's where their disconnect comes in. So it's important for the teacher to be able to identify with who it is that they're working with, be able to understand those processes that are going to work well to meet the needs of that student so that that student can experience successes. If the student is not experiencing successes, then the student is not going to be as engaged or actively participating in the lessons that the teacher is teaching. So again, you got to make sure you identify with who it is that you're teaching and you understand them. You got to understand who you're working with. So I would say one of the biggest challenges for teachers today, whether you're working at the early childhood, elementary, middle, high school, or even in higher education, look how I'm looking. They don't understand who they working with. They're out of touch. They still think we're working with students from yesterday. So they want to stand in front of people and they want to talk and say blah, 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 like for 2 hours or 3 hours. You can't stand in front of a classroom and just lecture to somebody for that long. That no longer works. You've got to be able to differentiate your instruction to meet the needs of the populations that you are serving.
So how does that look in the classroom? Like what does that look like in the classroom for educators to do that?
So when we talk about differentiating instruction, you're looking at those different modalities and processes you're going to be implementing as you're teaching. So for example, let's say that a teacher might teach a math lesson. The
Hmm.
teacher, they might start off with a lecture. Let's say we're a third grade teacher and we're teaching our students how to do 2 digits by 2 digits. Well, at first we're going to do the lecture over that. Then they might have some students come up to the whiteboard and actually work out some problems. They then might make the students go into some small groups where they're working together in teams. They might pull out some manipulatives to make sure that students know how to carry and things of that nature. So you are doing different things to meet the needs of your students. So if you have students that are more visual, that means they need to see like videos, they need to see PowerPoints, they might use charts and graph. For the student that is more audio, that's just their preference of learning. Then you're going to do more talking, have more sound. For those students that are kinesthetic, they've got to move. That rotation when you're allowing them to get up out of the seat. So again, you're looking at what works for each one of your students, and you're making sure that when you're teaching your lesson, you keep that in mind as you plan and you prepare to teach that lesson. So you're not necessarily teaching those concepts one way. You're doing it multiple ways to meet the needs of each of those individuals in your classroom.
And that also keeps them engaged, right?
Yes.
So when you're able to try different ways and